So through our behavioral health department, they receive a therapist and a case manager. So it's really that department that's really doing the heavy lifting in terms of helping the clients identify where their triggers might be coming from.
We get upset with our parents for being so strict, but that what St. John's program is employing is that structure and the strictness of a parent, but it's for your own betterment. Sure, you can deviate and go sideways a little, but the trajectory for your best self should always lean towards onwards and upwards. St. John Programs for Real Change isn't just a shelter. It's a living, breathing ecosystem offering safety, education, job training, and healing for women determined to break the cycle of poverty and trauma. It's the only comprehensive program that offers this wide array of services here in our city of Sacramento, California, but actually it's one of the few programs that is this comprehensive in the entire United States. It was founded in 1985, and for the past 40 years, this program has served over 30,000 women and children. And joining me today is Porcha Chambers from the St. John's program. She's here to help tell us, she's here to pull back the curtain on what real transformation takes, as she has spent some good quality time helping women rebuild their lives. So Porcha, welcome to Between Us. Thank you for joining us here for this really important conversation and the work that St. John's program is doing for the women and children.
Thank you for having me. We really appreciate the opportunity to highlight our program and talk about all of the wonderful things that we're accomplishing.
It's a pleasure. So, Porcha, if you could tell me, how is St. John's, other than what I've said in the introduction, really different from the regular shelters?
Well, St. John's Program for Real Change isn't just a residential program. It is a workforce readiness program at its core. And what really makes it different is the prolonged support that our clients receive. So our program is 9 to 12 months. But outside of that 12 months, because they're with us for so long, they build bonds and rapport with the staff. So typically a lot of our clients will come back, check in, give us updates on how they're doing, as well as some of them funnel into our Alumni Association so they can continue the cycle of supporting the newer clients who are coming in trying to change their lives as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. When these women come to St. John's, obviously they're looking for a place to start or just showing up with courage and strength. What kind of situations are women and children coming in from when they first turn up at the red door of St. John's?
So we get a wide array of clientele. We get women who are fleeing domestic violence situations, some who are unhoused for SUD. Substance use disorder.
Okay.
So they're battling addiction of some kind, and they're coming into our environment, which is a clean living environment, to start their lives over without having substance be the driving force. We also get women who are just facing financial hardships, who might have lost their jobs and found themselves, unhoused, and they need a safe space with their children to start over. So we get mothers, we get individual women. So any woman who is facing unhoused circumstances for a variety of reasons are welcome at St. John's.
If you could tell me, what does the first 24 hours look like when the clients walk in through the door?
So typically to get admitted into our program, they first have to call. So it doesn't start at the red door. It starts on the phone.
Okay, fair enough.
So they have to call and sometimes get on our waiting list and make sure that there's an opening or a bed or a room for them, space for them. After that, they have to undergo an orientation so they can understand what our program is, because we've been around for so long. Some people do think we're just a shelter, and that's not the case. So if you're coming into St. John's program, you are coming in for sustainability and with the intention of changing your life and ultimately finding employment. So if that's not in alignment with what your personal goals are when you come to St. John's, then it's probably not the best fit. So once you are admitted and you've decided after orientation that, yes, this is a place I want to be, you go through our intake but our intake process. So they're coming in, we check your belongings to make sure there are no critters. We make sure that there is no critters. We check your bags to make sure that there aren't any unauthorized items in there.
For the safety of others as well.
Right, for the safety of others. So an unauthorized item could be it could be like a lighter, it could be chips, because we provide 3 meals and a place for you to, we provide 3 meals and 2 snacks for you to come in. So we want to make sure you're not bringing in outside food and things of that nature, just to set you up on the right track. After that, you get your binder with all of your classes and your agenda of where you need to be and when, and then you are taken to your room to kind of settle in for a bit.
So if I understand correctly, when you said they have to call in, you're essentially vetting them to see if they're going to be a good fit because of the comprehensive program that St. John offers for these women, for their long-term success.
Yes, and you have to a certain degree, discern if you are ready. Right? So if we just let everybody who showed up at the red door, then we wouldn't have space for the people who are really trying to sustain their change, because we do get some clients who come in who aren't ready, and that's okay.
Yes.
But understanding that there are steps and levels to this program, and it's just not a shelter and you're not able to kind of come and go as you please. That's a big change for a lot of people who are coming from unhoused situations when all they have is freedom, more or less.
Yes.
And I don't mean to mean like we're like a lockdown facility, but we do impose rules and restriction for structure, because you're going from an unstructured environment to a structured environment for your benefit and the benefit of your children.
Now, Portia, you and I have said St. John's program and Red Door. What is the Red Door symbolic of?
So the red door, we have an undisclosed address.
Yes, I am aware. Yes.
For the safety of the clients who are coming into our program. So it's easy to say, look for the red door. The color red stands out in the environment that we're in. So you have a lot of muted colors, and then you have this very vibrant red door. So it is a symbol and a beacon for those in the unhoused community. If they don't know the address, they can look for the symbol. In
addition to housing the women, you also take in the children that come in with the mothers. Why is that component so important, and for St. John's to employ that and offer that?
Well, a lot of programs that are supporting the vulnerable population actually don't support people coming into program with their kiddos.
Correct.
But it's a conflict, because being unhoused is also not a reason to have your children taken away from you and put into like the CPS system or the foster care system. So you have a fair amount of individuals or mothers, parents who have their children with them while they are unhoused. So it's really important to offer a service where the parents can come in and have sustainability and their children, so that they're not being separated.
What are the youngest children that you have seen come in with the
babies?
Moms? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mothers who would like have just given birth maybe like 6 weeks ago.
Oh, my goodness.
Can come in with their children. On site, we have a child care program. So we do take infants. So if you come in with an infant, that's perfectly okay.
That's amazing. That is so, and I, when talking to various leaders at St. John's, I have had a relationship with this beautiful organization for a few years, and I'll share that story a little bit later. But it is so amazing to see the services that is being offered in really taking into account the comprehensiveness of what a woman may need and being able to give her all the tools and not diminishing the fact that if she comes with children, they too can thrive. As she is setting herself up for success.
Yes, because the goal is not to compound trauma, right?
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Because imagine you're already uneasy about the fact that you are unhoused, and even more so when you have someone who's in your care and stewardship. They are also experiencing that unhoused challenge, where your next meal is going to come from. That child may or may not be enrolled in school, and how they show up at school is also indicative of what's going on in their personal environment. So us being able to take in mothers with children is so important so that we can break the cycle of homelessness as well, so that those children know, like, okay, we have a safe space to recoup, and mom can open up some mental space to say, okay, our immediate needs are being met. We have somewhere to lay our head. It's safe.
Yes.
And they're providing meals, and the
children are taken care of.
The children are taken care of, etc.
Now, this is, you had mentioned a sober living environment with trauma-informed care. Can you unpack for me what those terms really mean and why it is so essential?
So trauma-informed care really just means acknowledging that people are coming from different walks of life and they're having different life experiences and challenges. Some are really challenging and some are really traumatic. Your trauma informs how you interact with the world around you. So for us as an organization, if our goal is to provide a safe space for you to heal, we have to acknowledge the fact that you might have gone through a traumatic experience, and how you are interacting with me might be because I'm triggering something that you went through, right? So in order to heal, we have to make sure that we are being patient and acknowledging the fact that, okay, you're angry, but you're not angry at me, right? And we can help you kind of further unpack where that trigger is coming from so that you can really absorb and interact with the services that we're providing for you.
Now, let me take that a little bit further. I understand that you are identifying their trigger so you can help them unpack and move on. Now, when you put them later on out into the world and into the job force, how do you help, or what do you equip them with so that they don't in turn continue to get triggered, but now are aware enough to assess that this is a trigger, breathe through it?
So through our behavioral health department, they receive a therapist and a case manager. So it's really that department that's really doing the heavy lifting in terms of helping the clients identify where their triggers might be coming from. And imagine, we are a communal living environment. So you're interacting with other individuals who may or may not have trauma as well. So naturally, there's going to be potential conflict or rubbing against one another, and they're going to have to problem solve in real time. And for the clients that don't have that skill set, and maybe all they know is lashing out, or all they know is anger, or all they know is shutting down and being quiet, it's the staff that can step in and say, like, hey, no, you can advocate for yourself in this situation, or hey, no, maybe you need to look at this from an alternative perspective. And it's through those interactions that clients can then get tools and implement those tools in real time, so that by the time they leave us, and again, this is after several months of being with us, they are well aware of what their triggers are, and they will have tools to combat maybe a traumatic response, or they'll be able to internally self-talk to talk themselves off a ledge, more or less, before they have to lash out.
Now, let me ask you, when you had said the women who show up, they're unhoused and coming from all different walks of life, when the behavioral health therapists are assessing their traumas, has there ever been a time while you have been there, or you've heard from other leaders, that it escalated beyond just a verbal, for lack of a better word, forgive me, meltdown?
We've had some clients who've lashed out physically, not attacking anyone, but let's say you knock over a computer screen or you knock something off of a desk. That is a clue to us that, okay, maybe you're not quite ready for this environment, because we do have to consider the entire ecosystem and all of the people in it.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
The staff included. So if you are in a place where you are physically lashing out, then we can't necessarily support that behavior, but we try our best to make sure that they get counseling, that they get talking to, that they get mediation before we have to take any steps that require us to suspend service in the short term.
You know what this reminds me of, Porcha, is when I was growing up, it's we get upset with our parents for being so strict, but that what St. John's program is employing is that structure and the strictness of a parent, but it's for your own betterment. And sometimes as children, when we grow up, we want to revolt against the boundaries, but we don't realize until much later that they were set in place for our own well-being, for our growth, so that we don't step out of line and that we continue to have an upward trajectory. Sure, you can deviate and go sideways a little, but the trajectory for your best self should always lean towards onwards and upwards.
And we have a fair amount of clients where that's the case. So it's like going through a grieving process of sorts.
Yeah, I can understand.
So like the first couple months, you might want to rail against the rules or what have you. And I want to be clear, none of our clients are out of control by any means or measure. But they aren't used to having that structure.
Yes.
So they might try to push the boundary or see what they can get away with until we redirect or course correct them. And then once they get into the swing of things, a lot of them really appreciate the structure and support and will duplicate it in their own lives, especially when they gain housing or whatnot, because if they are in our program with children, that structure is also benefiting their children and it benefits their parenting styles. So us waking them up, having breakfast, asking them to clean their room, keeping things orderly is something that they're able to replicate. And one thing that's different about St. John's from other programs is the children also get case managers. The children also get therapists.
That's amazing.
So we have a department called Family Services where they are such supports for the moms. They help them enroll the kiddos in school, summer programs. If the mom is really struggling with parenting their child or they just simply don't have parenting tools because it takes tools to parent. You can have a child, but unless you are intentional about knowing how to pour into your child, it can be difficult.
Yes.
So that department really helps them with parenting tools, how to parent, how to communicate with your child, how do you deal with frustration as a parent, all of those things.
That's amazing.
So all of that bleeds over into the children being able to thrive and have more structure and better communication with their parent.
You also touched upon, because the kids are with the mothers, it's so beneficial that they're not separated.
Yeah.
But there are moments when they're separated, and the program works with the courts and CPS to reunite these families. What does it look like in practice?
So reunification and the oversight of that also runs through behavioral health and their case management. So their case management at St. John's is really the client's number one advocate. So they know everything about the client's lives from the beginning to the end because they're with them for so long and also they're checking in. But if there's a client with a CPS case, the goal of our organization is to show stability on the mom's behalf. So a lot of times a client, if they have a CPS case and they're trying to reunify with their children, their CPS workers will come to our site. They will come to our site. They will talk to mom. They can have visitation with their children while they're on site with us. So a lot of times CPS can drop the children off to mom for like their hour or 2 hour visit or what have you. Sometimes the moms have overnights if that's where they are within their case. And we make room and space for those children, feed those children like the rest of the kids who actually live on site with us as well, until the courts have determined that the mom can have their children back legally. And once that's the case, the child comes into the program with mom, just like the other ones.
That's great. Now, is St. John's a 24 service provider, like of all services?
So we're 24 hours in the sense that the clients live on site with us for 24 hours. When they're there, they're at home.
Yeah.
That's very much so what it is. And we have staff on site 24/7. So we have intervention services, which is the equivalent of like if you're in college, like an RN.
Right.
So they handle making sure that they have bedding, that bedtime is adhered to, that if there's a medication needed, that we have something called MedCall. So we make sure that the clients get everything they need, and that kind of runs through intervention services.
And that's why I was asking, because if there's a crisis that occurs and, the staff has gone home for the day, there's still somebody on standby or on call that can accommodate the needs of the clientele.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
So we have night staff as well. So we have kitchen night staff and intervention services. They have 24-hour shifts. So there's morning shift, night shift. So there's always someone there.
Okay, amazing.
Yes.
Now, because of how comprehensive this program is, has St. John followed a formula from or taken inspiration from any of the other programs around the country?
So we are always looking for ways to expand and get better and to make our methods even more efficient. So if there's a program doing something that we admire, we definitely want to learn from them. In fact, a handful of us just got back from a trip just yesterday.
Oh, wow.
To visit another location out in LA that was doing very similar work to see what they were doing and what their best practices are. So we take inspiration from other programs that are doing things well and try to duplicate them if it's applicable to us because not every program has the same demographic.
Right.
But, we all have the same goal of making other people's lives better. So we're just looking to see how they're doing it.
Okay, and on that note, the foundation of St. John's is safety, but the real magic is when the women begin to heal and rebuild. What are the stages of the program offered by St. John's?
Yeah, so the program is 9 to 12 months. So within that 9 to 12 month, there are several stages that the clients have to more or less graduate into. So when a client first comes into our program, the goal is stabilization. And that level we call the gateway level. So the gateway to your change. It's both a building on our campus and a level of the program. So at the gateway level, that is normally a newer client. And within their first 60 days, we're really trying to stabilize them and get them used to our structure. Within those first 60 days, we really advocate for them to finish our educational classes. So we offer classes like navigating barriers, parenting, money matters. I facilitate the employability course and our Grow with Tech course. After they do our classes, they go into the next stage, which is our vocational training program, which is Plates Cafe and Catering, or Red Door Desserts. So Plates Cafe and Catering, we have a catering business, and it is also the vocational training in our industrial kitchen that's on our campus. Yes. So clients go into the kitchen on shifts, and they learn cooking skills and how to serve both the clients that are on site as well as if we have catering events on the book. So they're learning so many new things.
All the operational stuff behind and everything that goes into the making of running a business.
Right. So they're learning prep cook skills more or less. So they're learning knife skills. They're learning how to portion things. They're learning food safety. We also help them get their food handlers certificate that's good for 2 years. So all of that is happening in Plates Cafe and Catering. And after they do 225 hours in the kitchen, then they graduate to the next stage of the program, which would be job readiness. And that's where I come in.
So they can't go to job readiness or be allowed to go get a job outside of St. John's until they complete that 225 hours within the catering program that St. John offers.
Yes.
Because all of that is layered in helping them really prepare and equip them for their best selves to be, I guess for lack of a better word, camera ready. Okay.
Wow, that's exactly right.
I didn't know that. Why is it so important for the women to go through these phases? Like, why the deliberate slowdown?
Because if you're an unhoused individual, we have to tackle the first layer of your essential needs, right? So that's stabilizing you, helping you understand your personal roadblocks and challenging, whether that roadblock is a parenting challenge, a substance use challenge. If you don't have exposure to what work is and why it's important, or you've never worked, they have to go through the employability class and the Grow with Tech class to get those fundamental skills first and to have that knowledge base. After that knowledge base is acquired, then you implement it in the kitchen. So the reason we chose food service as a vocational training program is because there is the most transferable skills. Right? There's a customer service component. There's a logistics component. There's a problem-solving component. There's a teamwork component within the Plates Cafe and catering vocational side of things. After that, once you've applied the skill, now it's time to go into job readiness, which is an additional 6 weeks with me, where we are deep diving into employment concepts. That's where we're developing your job market materials, your resume, your interview practice. We're talking about what does it look like to write a cover letter? What does it look like to leave a job appropriately?
You know, Porcha, I want to pause there, and I didn't realize that something as simple as being in the kitchen, right? And we oftentimes, if we just for a moment step outside of the program and talking about what this offers, we look down upon just being in that environment. But I just had an epiphany. We don't realize all of the skills that are employed on the back end that shows up in the presentation when you sit down and consume something. And the way you described it is so profound. Thank you. I mean, I didn't realize in just a simple act all that is involved and how they all lead up, these micro actions lead up to a bigger holistic picture.
Yeah, and it's a great entry point for someone who has limited or untraditional work history. Being in the customer service or food service environment really gives you exposure to all of those skills.
How does the program go about creating as much sense of normalcy as it can for both the women and children?
Normalcy, I wouldn't say normalcy, but replace that with community. Okay. Right? We try to create a sense of community. We have 3 buildings on our campus. 2 of them are residential buildings. In each one of those buildings, there is a community room or a living room. It has a television, it has a sofa, it has games, it has books, it has murals. We try to make these environments feel homey so that you don't feel like you're in a hotel, motel, or
something temporary that you have to exit soon.
Right. Especially because you're there for like a year or longer in some cases. So we really try to reinforce the community aspect of things. We also try to empower our clients at every level of the program. We also have micro, let me rephrase, because status symbols. So meaning you can get Dream Builder status. That's someone who has completed all of their classes, right? So now you're a Dream Builder, and from Dream Builder, you can become a Dream Achiever. At each one of these levels, it means that you have hit a milestone or a benchmark of some kind within our program, and then you get rewarded. So clients can ask for overnights. So you get time off campus to go visit family or do something different. I hope I'm answering your question.
Yes. Well, I also wanted to know do you host events so that, when you talk about community, they don't feel excluded for, like, if they can't leave the campus to go watch fireworks, say, at Cal Expo during, like, 4th of July or New Year's. What do you do to make sure that they don't feel like they're missing out on these social gatherings?
We bring it to you.
Oh,
we bring
that's
it there.
Amazing.
Using 4th of July as an example, we have TNT come. So they do a fireworks show on our campus. I actually
right up front and center.
Yeah, and I brought my daughter to it because I'm like, these are the closest
yes
fireworks we're going to get. So we had ice cream, we had music, they did the fireworks show. When Christmas happens, we have many, many events. And then we have a great volunteer coordinator. Her name is Karen. Shout out to you, Karen. Who coordinates a lot of volunteers coming in, especially around holidays when it's Mother's Day.
So they don't feel left out.
No.
Oh, that's
They get an
amazing.
abundance of things, especially around holidays, for that purpose, so that they don't feel left out, and in particular, so their kids don't feel left out.
Yes, because I mean, and it goes back to what you said. If these kids are in school, they're already in an environment that's so different from their peers. You layer that on with the holidays, so you don't want people to feel isolated. They're already isolated from life, if you may. You're trying to help them up. That is so great.
I kind of equate it to like undergrad. If you've ever gone to college or undergrad and you lived in a dorm, it's more or less like that, in the sense of you have a room, they have door decorating contests, they have an RN, which is our IS staff. So it's community living like that, in the sense, like, you go to lunch together, you go to dinner together, we bring events to the campus together, and also we empower the clients to also host events for one another. Like our dream builders we're having a karaoke night. They're throwing a karaoke night for one another.
I want to be there.
Yeah. So we try our best to make sure that it feels festive when it needs to feel festive, while also maintaining, for your example, that parental kind of guidance or nudging that they might need.
Okay, great. Now, Porcha, let's talk about you. Because you're also instrumental in the work that you do and the changes that you help bring about in the lives of these women. But I want to ask you, what brought you to St. John's in the first place?
Originally, I was introduced to St. John's 8 years ago.
Okay.
So I came to St. John's from a for-profit educational institution, and I was just really interested in the position and helping women with their workforce readiness or job readiness. That's always kind of been a side passion of mine. So it was an opportunity to do that, especially for vulnerable population.
Now, how long have you been with St. John's?
So the first go around, I was with St. John's for about 2 years, and then I left into the world and had different experiences with different employers and things, and then I have returned and now been with St. John's again for a year now.
Is it the same role that you've stepped back into when you left?
Yes, ironically enough, it is it is the exact same position.
It's meant to be.
But this time I'm coming with layered life experience and layered knowledge. So I was, equipped the first time, but I'm even more so now. And that makes it even more exciting for me to kind of pour into all of the new knowledge and experience that I have into the position.
What has been the biggest challenge as you came back around the second time?
Challenge? What do you mean by challenge?
In, say, when you left the first time and you returned, what was the challenge in seeing what hadn't changed?
It wasn't a challenge to see what hadn't changed, because with most nonprofits, you get people that come and go. So sometimes you struggle to make changes and then sustain a change, right?
True.
So with my department in particular, I saw that there was an opportunity to update some of the workforce readiness curriculum, and I took that upon myself to do. And that's been such an exciting undertaking to see how we can transform some of the program offerings in some of our courses. So
now let's talk about workforce readiness. When I first came into or got to know about St. John's, it was in 2020 at the height of the shutdown. And I think it was a year or year and a half later, I got a tour of the campus. And they took me to the area where there was the computer set up, and I was informed that the women were learning keyboard skills.
yeah.
And I apologize because I take this for granted, of having the skills of being, of knowing how to type. And, we're on our mobile phones. And shame on me for judging and thinking everybody should have that skill. But I didn't realize that because we live in our own cocoon,
Yeah.
that these women that these organizations are helping do not have those skills. And I didn't realize the things we take for granted, a lot of people don't.
It's even a shock for me sometimes, and I have to like course correct sometimes, and it's an exercise in communication because we're on autopilot because we know how to do it.
Right.
So when someone asks me this, the computer lab is what you're referencing.
Yes.
So our computer lab and the Grow with Tech class, which I oversee, is what you're also referencing. They have to have 2 hours of typing practice. And what I've noticed is in facilitating that course, describing how to do something, I have to take a step back and say, wait, how am I doing that? So that I can describe it to someone else and help them also learn to do it. So it's an exercise and a growth exercise for myself as well to understand the processes of things.
But let me pause and ask you this, because this is something that I would be guilty of. Is, yes, taking a step back to exercise understanding, but that also comes with a lot of patience.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you have that awareness to always say, no, Porcha, I cannot be on autopilot right now. I need to exercise both understanding, patience, and awareness because they need something from me.
You know, I just had this happen last week with a client who got emotional when I was showing her how to do something. They were talking to me saying, thank you so much for your patience because when I was younger, my dad never had patience and I have trauma around learning new things. And she got really emotional and started crying almost, to me, from my perspective, out of nowhere. But for her, me being patient and really showing her, no, we're going to click here. No, this is a mouse. This is your right click versus your left click. This little blinking line is your cursor. You have to move it up here. This is called a ribbon. I have to go into my knowledge archives to identify what even is this thing that I'm trying to describe to this person. So whenever I do the computer class or any class in particular, I always start with a deep breath because I'm human as well, right? It can be frustrating to have to describe something in what I call micro steps. So I'm always hyper aware of that. And it just so happened this last week, I had a couple of clients thank me for my patience. So internally, I'm always like, okay, deep breath. Now describe what they're asking for because it's not their fault that they don't know.
Right.
And coincidentally, it's not my fault that I do know. We're all
because our context of our lives are different.
Right. It just so happens that I was put in an environment to where I had the exposure to learn something they didn't. And now I'm in a position to where it's time for me to kind of return that knowledge back into the world by way of coaching the client.
And I bring that up too, Porcha, because we live in such a time of just being on autopilot, so used to just being responsive because everything around us warrants a response, not in 5 minutes, but now.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, it's such great lessons I'm learning every day and taking inspiration from you and everybody else that I talk to, just to pause and reflect and to show the same kindness that we have been shown. And just because we have the ability and the knowledge that we're no better than these other people who need our help right now. Because they shine in other areas of life that we don't. They, you know, these women who come to the program who are unhoused, they have way more street knowledge than I ever could.
Right. And you know what? Being in this position, I've changed the way I've thought about certain things as well. Like even how we talk about our clients. And I like the term vulnerable, right? Because they're lacking resources, but not necessarily know-how in a lot of different aspects.
And the strength that they have to show up and say, no, I'm ready for change.
And to ask for help.
Yes.
There's a lot of could be stigma and embarrassment in reaching out and asking for help and saying like, hey, I as an individual need help, even more so when you have children, right? There's a certain level of pride you have to put to the side and to reach your hand out and say, please help me.
Since you've been back, what is the one thing that you've been feverishly working on, your passion project?
My passion project, honestly, is the curriculum update, like, and being able to implement some learning objectives into some of the content that we're offering the clients, making it so much more comprehensive, and then I'm in the iterative stage of that, so I've piloted a couple of different versions with the clients and seeing how successful it is with them to kind of pare down some of the offerings. Because sometimes, going back to that autopilot conversation, we just say things and then hope they know what we mean, right? Where I've been very intentional about describing things within our curriculum so that the clients or anyone at any stage would understand what the word employment means and what the word stability means. And okay, I've introduced the STAR method for interviewing. Okay, now here's a worksheet to practice. Let's talk through some life examples, because even if your work history is non-traditional, let's talk about experiences you've had and how we can leverage those things.
Even seasoned people like me need the coaching, or we bounce people off, bounce ideas and have those same sessions with our friends.
Right. It's a whole industry. It's called career coaching. Right. So I have been a career coach in my own career. So I have coached judges and executives and things of that nature. And my own imposter syndrome has creeped through sometimes where it's like, okay, just because this person has this title doesn't mean they know how to do this thing. So circling it back to someone even more so vulnerable, they're no different than an executive who doesn't know how to write a resume either. You know what I mean? So taking those steps and really paring them down has been kind of a joy coming back to St. John's, because I know we're doing it right and we're doing it well.
And in a way, I mean, it's not tangible, but you can see tangible results in front of your eyes.
Yes, you can. You can see by the number of interviews they're getting how confident they feel about what's written on the page. I tell my clients all the time, this little piece of paper has to speak for you while you can't. Right? While it's circling around the job market,
right.
You have to make sure that you are comfortable with what it says and how it's representing you. And you have so much experience within the last 9 to 12 months being at St. John's that you can leverage. And I constantly have to remind them that it's nothing to be ashamed of. Your time here at Plates means something. Your time here at Red Door Desserts is valuable. Your change makes you a desirable hire because you're more apt to be to have longevity in your position because you're re-entering the workforce and stability is in the forefront of your mind.
Now, let me ask you this. In today's job market, how are you navigating the employability and building on that confidence to still have the women go up and strive for their best in a challenging market?
Our focus as an organization has been on partnerships, right?
Oh, okay.
How do we create employment pipelines, right? I stand in the gap. We stand in the gap for them to be the advocate to say, like, hey, we've spent a significant amount of time with this person. These are the competencies that they have developed underneath our stewardship. They are worthy of a chance. So having those side conversations with organizations or people who are willing to provide grace for our clients to step back into the workforce is going to be really, really key.
I want to pick up on that word grace, because grace is what the grace I show to you, and in the relationship, like you said, you build with the partners, is what will give the women the opportunity to show up in the world and not be afraid of being shunned by the world or being judged for the backgrounds that they may have, because everybody deserves a chance.
Yeah. And I think that's a larger workforce challenge that we're having across the board. I think it impacts the vulnerable the most significantly.
Yes.
But even people not in our clients' situation need grace. And I've noticed just systematically, there's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on when it comes to hiring individuals in general. So having someone be an advocate and having someone try to help create a pipeline for there to even be an entry point is so important and so valuable. So that's pretty much how we try to navigate the current workforce. Beyond the partnerships piece, I try to empower our clients that they can and that they already know. And that's where a lot of our mock interviews and one-on-one job coaching and I manage our job searching for our, when I say I manage it, I mean I oversee. It's like a supervised job search. It's a supervised job search with our clients to show them strategies for how to look for a job. Because even that is on autopilot. When I say look for a job, what comes to mind for you?
Go on LinkedIn, but I'm coming from a corporate perspective and filter down.
Your first thought is to go to a computer, type in some words.
Yes.
Right? And then watch the results come in. That's a step I have to teach them. That step.
And I just responded on autopilot to you in real time.
Yeah. So a job search for our clients, a lot of them still think, oh, I just go to the store and I say, are you hiring? And they give me a paper application. I have to educate them where the workforce and the job market actually is.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different things and nuances at play when we are developing our clients for the workforce. And I'm so proud to say that a great many of them really internalize the skills and have gone on to maintain that change and find employment. And we champion that every single day at St. John's.
Honestly, just listening to you right now, I am so blown away at like all of the little things. Again, I go back to the things we take for granted and the bubbles that we live in. When we step outside and realize where the need really lies and your eyes open wide, you think, my goodness, there's so much work to be done. And it really starts at the very basic. It's always simple, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Goodness. Now, let me ask you, this job can take a lot out of you. It's taxing. What motivates you to show up every day?
Well, that's a good question. What motivates me to show up every day? Honestly, whenever I walk through St. John's door, I'm reminded of humanity, right?
Oh.
No one wakes up wanting to be in the circumstances that our clients are in. No one is born hoping that in adulthood they have to sell their person for essentials like food or housing or something else. So it really does do something for my spirit to know that I can create impact. When I walk through St. John's doors, I know with me within my role, it's real impact. Showing somebody how to type or use a computer, that's real impact. Showing somebody how to interview or get their job market materials ready, that's real impact. And those are sustainable skills that those clients are going to remember going into their next opportunities.
Right. Now, you're also part of the Alumni program or Alumni engagement. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, so we have an Alumni Association. We relaunched it at the top of the year with a lot more structure. We have clients on the Alumni board who help make programmatic decisions. Our goal with our Alumni program is to keep that community, right? So that's to sustained support.
Yeah.
So we have clients who have been through St. John's, who are successful doing their thing out in the world, and having them come back onto campus to pour into the newer clients is so important because it's a beacon to the current clients that it can be done.
They're the living example.
They are the living example that it can be done, and it gives them something to strive for, too.
Right.
I recently had a graduate contact me because we have a certain stipulation that you have to be sustained right within your change for a certain amount of time. She hit that benchmark and she's like, hey, I'm ready now. I really want to volunteer. I want to come back. So our Alumni Association hosts events on campus on a monthly basis.
That's amazing.
For the current clients. But beyond that, my goal with the Alumni Association is to make sure that we are providing programming for our alumni to help them with their professional development. So, for example, let's say a client has gained employment and been employed for a while. From a St. John's perspective, how are we continuing to pour into that individual? Does that individual want a raise? Do they want to
carry the conversation forward?
Right, carry the conversation forward. What do you need as someone who has sustained your change from St. John's, and how can we help you in your next step.
Understood. And having said that, we do have somebody here from the alumni program who has been part of the St. John's journey, and I want to welcome her on here with us now. Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You are an alumni of St. John's, and you walked in ready for change. And I wanted you on here because I think you are instrumental. Your story here is inspiring. We have talked privately before, but you are also proof that no one is too far gone to find their way back. So if you could tell me, what stage of your life were you in that brought you to the doors of St. John's?
I was at a stage in my life where I was broken. I was confused, lost, and ready for change. I came to the conclusion that whatever I was doing wasn't enough for myself, and I had to relearn myself. I became homeless in 2012, and from there, it just kind of opened up my eyes to see that I need help. And like what Porcha was saying earlier, it's not easy and at my age at that time, to ask for help.
If you don't mind, and if you're comfortable sharing, how old were you around that time?
I don't remember the exact
Range.
number, but I was in my 40s.
Wow.
Early 40s. It was in 2014 when I finally made it into the doors of St. John's. So 2 years after me being homeless, I had gone through Loaves and Fishes. I've gone through Mary House. My daughter was at Mustard Seed, and at Women's Empowerment is when I heard about St. John's. Miss Lisa, who was at Women's Empowerment, told me about the program because she saw that the class that she offered wasn't going to be enough for me. She knew that I needed more. And this program that Miss Porcha works at, in St. John's program, was something that was going to give me what I needed to continue.
Jennifer, tell me, you mentioned that you had been in other places. What was different there that you weren't getting, that when you came to St. John's the first time you said, oh, this has the potential to now work in my favor?
The other programs were great, but I felt the program which I learned from going to St. John's was going to provide me the structure and the discipline I needed. When you're, I would say in my age group at 40s, we're kind of a creature of habit. We're stuck in our way of living. So to come back and learn new habits and learn new things, I needed a place that was going to be able to give me that kind of, I'm not going to say attention, but the support. They're very serious about their job, but they're also caring, but they're very serious, and they, like you said, they're very strategic on how they want to run that program. So I figured this was a great time for me to now recognize that this was something that I needed more in my life at that time. Not just for me, but for my daughter.
I was just going to ask, did you come with your children?
Yes. Well, when I became homeless, it was me, my son, and my daughter. My son being 17, he wasn't going to be allowed to go with me into the program. So he was able to stay with a friend, and me and my daughter went into the program.
Is there a cutoff age for the children?
Yeah, so they have to be legally a minor. So, so if a mother has a child that's 17 that's going to turn 18 within a couple of months or a few months within their stay in the program, we advise them to have somewhere else for that person to be.
Okay. So, Jennifer, when you stepped in through the doors of St. John's and you said, you know, we are creatures of habit. I know I have certain habits that I'm a very bad creature of.
Right.
How was it for you in the first, let's just say, even 90 days trying to acclimate?
Interesting.
Take your time, yes.
Interesting. The first 24 hours, I was scared, but I was also grateful to have somewhere safe to sleep that night. Of course, people usually have family or friends, but I didn't have that kind of support. I had some people, but not somewhere safe. So within that first 90 days, it was learning to accept somebody else's rules, to accept their boundaries, to understand their boundaries, and understand what this program was really going to offer me.
Did you try to push those boundaries?
All the time. All the time. I'm like, you can't tell me I can't leave on the weekends. You can't tell me I can't talk on the phone with my son during lunch or dinner time, like little simple things, because I felt like my son still needed me because he was healing. I wanted to be able to be, I usually the person that helps people. So I'm always available. So not being available for certain things I felt at that time was important kind of made it hard for me to stay focused on what the program needed me to do. So again, I wasn't thinking of me at that time. I was thinking of my kids or others. So I had to stop that and think of me. What was going to be best for Jennifer? And so that's...
Portia, in a situation like what Jennifer is describing, how do you help mitigate and explain to Jennifer, we need to focus on you. Yes, your child is important, but we need to focus on you so that you can then in turn be a better parent.
Well, the mom is the catalyst, right? The parent is the catalyst for the support of the family. So not using Jennifer specifically, we also had a client who was on the phone constantly with an adult daughter because she felt like she wanted to be there for all of the family gossips, the milestones, everything that was happening outside of our red doors. But it's a hindrance to your program when you're not mentally present. You're not absorbing the tools at that point because you're kind of stuck in an old habit of trying to give and provide, but you're also not in a place to do that. So you can't have the duality or the competing priorities. So we try to coach clients around, hey, it's time to prioritize you so that you can be of support to your children longer term. If you have minor children with you, they have the advocate in the family services department to help that communication in that relationship. But if you have adult children outside of the program, we're never going to tell you you can't talk to your children, but there's a time and a place to do it. There are time frames to do it. So that's where the structure comes in. If you're supposed to be in class talking about financial readiness or navigating barriers or parenting class, but you're in the hallway on the phone, are you getting the information? Are you getting the tools so that you can then in turn pour into your children?
So Jennifer, what did you tell yourself to be able to go past those hardened habits that we all have?
I had to learn to be more with the affirmations. I had to learn to wake up every morning and say, you're going to be okay. You're in a safe place. It was hard, very hard, especially because I was doing things that was out of my comfort zone. I had to allow others to go ahead and take the lead. And as a former leader, I felt it was challenging. It challenged me. And I love challenges because where I'm at now, I appreciate all that. But at that moment, in that first 90 days, I didn't understand that.
When the changes that the program was imposing, when it felt too hard for you, what did you do? Did you say, I'm going to stick it out because I know this is for my benefit?
When I first went into St. John's, I became defiant. I became saying, no, they don't really understand me. They're not going to really be able to help me. They don't get it. I can do this on my own, which is just something of, I think, again, the creature of happiness, of just doing things I was familiar with. So after 5 months, I would say I went in April 12, 2014, and I left by October 1st. I felt
What made you change? Because you felt like they weren't understanding you?
In my mind, yeah, that's what I felt in my mind. And then the reality of it is they really did understand me because they deal with women like me all the time. But I didn't think they were going to understand what it is I really needed. But I didn't even know what I needed. So how can I assume that a program who has the structure and ability to give me what I need or to focus on getting me to those needs, I had to learn to just not self-sabotage myself for that and redirect that to...
When you left, how long did it take you to come back?
Another 2 years.
Why that long, Jennifer?
My mother passed away in 2013, so I was still dealing with the concepts of her death. I had to find another place to be able to feel... I don't really know. I just
That's
went
okay,
back
yep.
to old habits. I just went back, okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to just find me a job, even if it's just a quick one. I wasn't thinking long term. I was just thinking of a quick fix of like, okay, I can just get a McDonald's job. I can just find me a quick little apartment. I can just move in. But I wasn't focusing on the deeper things that I needed to change in order to be stable for me and my family. So for 2 years, I went back to living in my car. I went to living in motels. I went to living with family and friends, sleeping on their floors. And my daughter is actually the one that said, hey, Mom, I really would like to go back. And she was only in the 6th grade at the time. But she's the one that helped push me to call back. And so, again, like the process is, I called every day for about 2 more months, and I was able to go back into St. John's. They welcomed me back. And I think
That's
coming
great.
back, they understood, not necessarily understood, I think they knew I was ready at that time.
And you were this time willing to put in the work.
Very willing. When I went in there, I was so happy, and I always said, I am not going to leave this place until it's time for me to go, or you kick me out. Like,
You can't see, but like I have goosebumps all over because it takes. I can't. Oh gosh, I'm not wearing waterproof mascara. I can't cry on camera. But jokes apart, I can't even imagine the life that you have had, and especially because I'm your age when you first went into St. John's. To say, I'm not giving up on myself. I still have a fighting chance. And yes, when changes come at you, you resist. But then to say, no, Jennifer, there's a place, that red door, you know where it is. It's time for you to go back there. It takes a different kind of strength to pull into the deep recesses of yourself and to champion for you. Because the minute you say, I'm ready for to champion for me, God will show you the way. With
Yes.
organizations like St. John's, with people like Porcha.
yes.
I
And
commend and applaud you for that.
it was hard, but it took my higher power getting me there. In order for me to get to a place where I was going to be able to make change, God said, just be still and know that I'm God. And in order for me to be still, I had to be in a place that was going to give me that, which meant a safe room, to have my own room. That felt good, even being homeless as long. I was homeless for 6 years. 2 years of that was part of St. John's. So it was a blessing, I felt, in disguise, because it wasn't the people that I kept going to sleep on their floors that were going to give me the kind of help and support I needed. It was a program with the structures, the case management, the ability to relearn. I'm a high school dropout, so being able to go to St. John's, I was able to get back to high school. I was able to learn my Intel classes and computers. I'm one of those people that you just talked about that I didn't know computers. I was scared to ask. I had, what do you call that? That fear when you math anxiety or computer anxiety. I didn't know any of that stuff. So just even being able to learn just basic stuff like what a mouse was, what a cursor was, that was the beginning for me at St. John's. And I embraced all of that. I embraced everything that they were giving me because I didn't realize, even though I was older, I felt older, there was still so much more for me to learn. And this place was going to give me a chance to slow down, as you guys mentioned, to be able to put all those new tools in my belt.
Jennifer, let me ask you, and forgive me, I'm thinking out loud as I'm going to ask this question.
Yes.
So it might not come out prettily at first, is when you want to change your life, and, I'm going through big personal storm, and I want to see tangible results. I have conversations with my God, whoever I believe in, and I say, I keep showing up for you. When are you going to show up for me? So how did you, in that moment of chaos, but the clarity that came through was, I need to step into this program, step through with faith for results you couldn't see. And you didn't know when those results would be visible to you.
Correct. And I think that's the biggest challenge for most people who have a higher power or God that they believe in, is trusting faith, because that's not something you could see. That's an energy. So now you have to channel your energy into believing in yourself and accepting this help. being a patient sometimes is not easy when you're somebody who is empathic as I am, because I always want to be there for people. The first, going back and then really being involved, I had to keep a box of tissue with me, but just because of all the different stories these women were sharing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not the only one that's going through this. I am not the only one that had that experience. And so some of their stories were triggering me. And then I had to start understanding I had a mental, I'm not going to say what's the good word, I had mental health issues that I didn't know I had. Being at St. John's, I understood these things now, and they gave me the proper support in that process, because now I'm understanding what PTSD is. I'm now understanding anxiety. I understand that all these things were a part of me that I never really knew names and understood that was part of why I went through the things I did. For a lot of times, it was always fight or flight, and so it made me understand why I left the first time. Because even whether it's a good or a bad situation, my thing was to just quit. And that's just not with St. John's. That was part of my life with everything I did, through jobs, through relationships with people, with family, with just even myself. And it was always just stop, quit. Going in there and getting through those processes, it taught me to not quit. It pushed me to boundaries that I was amazed at myself for doing. But it came through faith.
What you just said is there's such an interesting dialogue being circulated around these days. And I don't know how much of the population really leans into this, is if something's not for you, just quit. And yes, that is true in certain circumstances, but you have to use a discernment, because it's easy to quit, but quitting in shortcut, isn't it always just the long way around?
Yes.
Anyways, we want to take shortcuts. I for sure as hell would love some shortcuts in life, but it's temporary, it's so fleeting, and before you know it, you're back to square one. So if you had only done the work, the first time around, you wouldn't have to circle back the long way.
Correct.
To get to where you need to be.
Right.
So, sorry, I just
Growth happens through consistency.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, but we're such, again, it goes back to what we talked about in this day and age of just being able to being on autopilot and responding and having things instantaneously, that we don't realize, I guess, some of the blessings that we have until life throws us such curveballs.
Right.
That we have to really humble ourselves and say, okay, God, now I'm at your mercy. Show me the way.
Right. And the word that you just used, humble, is something that he was teaching me along with faith. He was like, I've given you plenty of good jobs, really good jobs. Why'd you quit them? I've given you some nice places to live. Why'd you leave them? And I'm answering these questions to myself, like, what? And so I didn't have the capacity to learn how to keep those things. And coming from the kind of childhood I had and understanding ACEs now, we always moved. We always went from place to place. So it was always easy for me as a creature of habit to just go, quit and go, quit and go, quit and go, quit and go. And it wasn't that my dad was quitting. It was just a form of, we always had to move. We always had to go here. We always had to do this. So coming into this program, I saw things differently. I saw, and then, like you said, the storyboards that were around and everything that was around, and seeing these things, and even some staff that themselves had went through the program gave me great inspiration. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Jennifer, in hearing you speak right now, but also when we had spoken privately, there was something that struck out to me when you talked about God had always given you opportunities, but you quit, right? The example you had given. But you also, as you were telling us that story, there's accountability that I hear from you. And Porcha, you hear a lot more stories, but sometimes when people do the work, they're still shy of really taking accountability at times, because it really makes you look at yourself in the mirror in the ways you don't want to really see the deeper truths. And that can be scary at times.
It is. It is, but being in St. John's, when those fears come up, I have case management I can go to. I have a client services person that I can go to. I have fellowship now. I would consider it a fellowship, because I'm now in a program with 200 other women. Similar stories, some may not, but it was just so comforting to know that you had support no matter what, including for my daughter. Because a lot of times when I was going through things, my daughter would be at school or she would be in the daycare or they would have activities that would be for the kids. It gave me more time to really focus on me. But
So when you came back, and as Portia had described when we were speaking, all of those phases of the program, you said this time I'm going to commit to every single one of them?
every single one of them. Like I was up ready before they even they wake you up at 6:30 and you got to get ready to go. You got to get your room clean. I was ready. 8:30
That's
I'm looking
amazing.
like they didn't open the classroom door yet. Like I'm ready to get in here and get started.
That's amazing.
You know, and I would have my bonder. I think the only challenging part of doing all that though for me was actually having to have my daughter walk by herself to the light rail. So it would distract me, but then somebody would come in like Portia or Miss Joe or somebody and they would come in and redirect me, get my focus back on focus, and keep going.
When you did the career development program, after that was finished, what was your first outside job?
So my first outside job came with a property management job, but it also came with housing. So I got approved because I was actually in the middle of my job readiness job. And the only reason why I got approved to be able to take this job outside of not finishing there, I did finish, but it came with stable housing. So I was able to finish those last few weeks with Miss Portia while being able to move and start my job. So I was managing both of those at the same time.
Amazing. I mean, the level of independence and confidence that must have instilled in you. Now, Portia, let me ask you, for example, with Jennifer's job, was that in partnership?
No, that one wasn't within partnership at that time. We were prioritizing housing, right, because they're unhoused. So typically the process is we want you to finish job readiness before you look for a job, right? So the opportunity just happened to present itself for Jennifer that the job had housing. So we're not going to stand in the way of that. And to graduate our program, you have to finish job readiness. So when she's referencing, she did finish, but we made an exception for her because of the housing piece. We wanted her to make sure she got everything. Right? And we were going to support her in that.
And they did.
Jennifer, how did that fall into your lap?
Actually, it was referred to by my son's ex-wife. I have an older son. I have 4 children. So my older son, ex-wife, had referred me, and I didn't even know about it. And I got a call from this landlord or owner, and it was like, hey, would you like to come and do an interview for this job? And I'm thinking, I don't have experience in this. So I was kind of doubting myself, and I was like, sure, I'll come and do this interview. And then the interview goes, but I'm going to need you to start tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. So everything went okay. Then I went back and I talked to the proper staff and Miss Portia and waited a couple of days to see if I was going to get the okay. And I let the owner know, I mean, I might not be able to start tomorrow. I will get back to you. But then by the end of the week, I was able to accept that job.
How long have you been in this job now?
8 years.
8 years?
8 years.
Oh, my goodness me.
And you're a computer pro now. So I'm like so proud.
Wow.
Yes. And I would have not been able to sustain that job had I not got the job experience from St. John's and Miss Portia.
You know, Jennifer, in talking to you right now and looking at you, you would not for a second think that life has dealt you the cards it has.
I didn't think so either.
So
Thank you.
calm and collected and just so graceful. How did you find this strength then? And what is your strength and motivation now?
My children were always my strength. So my daughter being my number one and getting her back on track, getting her schooling and getting her sustained. She benefited a lot from the program herself. So it was just learning to be able to not fall back into old habits and to be able to take this new journey in my life and show myself, my family, and everybody else that, change is possible and you can do this with the right tools.
In the 12 months that you spent at St. John's, they taught you essential skills so that you can now excel in life. But what happens when those 40 years of old habits sneak in? What do you tell yourself and what habits have you implemented that you can, on a bad day, still be able to bypass those emotions?
Well, for me, it's always taken a moment of just, even if it's just 10 minutes to regroup myself and to remember the tools that I have and implemented in my belt. Those times do come up, but I think now because I practice consistency of the tools that were given to me leaving St. John's, they're quickly diminished. They're buried. I push them back down. I take a moment. I'll take an early lunch. I feel like now that I have the job security with the company I'm with now, they're really understanding on that, and they're really big. They've also started doing meditation as part of our daily practice.
Oh, wow.
So on Tuesdays, we have a meeting, and we group region-wide all do a meditation for everybody. So it's just the practicing, and then the community part of it, I do it with my apartment complex. So the things that I've learned at St. John's, like you were saying, the movie nights and all the other little things, we now implement that at home, and we now make that part of our community where I live.
That's so amazing to think of where life was for you and taking that community aspect and just carrying it forward. It's, it's what you pour in, and it's that the gift that just keeps on giving. It's really...
Yes.
Relying on people to carry forward the good work. It goes back to what we said, changes start small. One small thing can become a movement before you know it.
Right.
And you're a part of our extended support system as well, because Jennifer is the president of our Alumni Association board. So she's in a leadership position. She is an example for the current clients. And I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I would assume that it helps being able to come back so frequently to pour into the clients who are not where you are, who aspire to be where you are, you know?
Exactly. And it's still my therapy to go back. Because that's a place I've always been familiar with that I didn't want to change. But
let me ask you, you've got a full-time job. So why is it important for you to be part of the alumni program at St. John's?
Because going into the program, I didn't think it was possible that people can really change that much. Learning from the program, I see that, yes, it is very possible to change old habits, old thinking, that addicts can now become sober for many, many years. People with mental health can understand what mental health really means without feeling like they're below in a different class and they're not better than anybody. Certain age group, women coming into my age, you want to be able to know, can I still find a job and a career? Like I'm almost 60, can I really? So having all that and going back is my therapy. And going back and teaching women, not just what happens afterwards, but just still letting them know this still continues with you. You still got to follow some kind of structure, whether it's still getting up early for a job, whether it's still, communicating with your manager that you're going to be behind late on rent, knowing to not lose anything. So I still want to be some kind of help guiding these women, because I've had some women that have graduated the program who actually come and lived into my apartment complex.
Wow, that's great.
Some of them are still actually there, even a couple of former staff members. But I've had some women that have come, and it's just a small few, who still practice their old ways and didn't grasp those tools at St. John's, and it followed them into the housing, and they lost their house. And that hurt me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I still share that story with these women that are still coming out, graduating from the program, to now just keep their place, because I was in a place like that before.
And let me ask you this too, because being an alumni, you're in a perfect position for people who don't want to change those habits, as you're saying, and they're being a little bit hard or difficult. You are in the same shoes, so you know what tactics to employ to get through them.
Exactly. And I'm at a place now that I am more calm to do that. I wasn't always like that because I was still dealing with me. So I would be annoyed, I would be angry, I would be overly depressed, and I didn't have all my emotions in balance. But after the program, I've learned to balance all that back out. I learned me again, and I learned to be more accountable for my own actions. I have to learn to pause myself sometimes. Like, oh. Sometimes people have to put their own foot in their mouth and learn on their own.
Yeah, I know. I do many a time.
So there's only so much I can do.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I still try to find some kind of motivation. I want to motivate women, empower them.
Jennifer, you were unhoused when you came to St. John's.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a myth about homelessness that you could shatter?
Well, I would say that not almost every homeless person wants to be homeless. Not every homeless person is not far from being able to be, I don't want to say reprogrammed, but retaught their own value to themselves, learn to become their own best friend. I think when you're homeless, you just stay on survival mode, you forget how to live. So for me, it's just not every homeless out there is deserving to be homeless, you know. I don't know how to word it in the way I want to, but there's a lot of smart homeless people out there. There's a lot of very educated homeless out there. There's a lot of people that don't know how to ask for that help because they're just stuck on survival mode. All they're going to know is just survive for the day. I got to focus on today. So learning, just relearning and learning about the homelessness, that there are so many different walks of life, and it's not what people think homeless is. People think homeless as dirty, down, drug use, not capable, messy.
Because that's what we're fed.
Exactly.
That's all we see.
Social media, news. So you got to stay away from all that because that's not what it is. Homeless is one tenant not being able to pay her rent on time and not having the support from a company who may give her a payment planned. And sometimes they panic and don't ask for that payment plan, so they just then become homeless. So we don't want to stigmatize the homelessness of just being a one-size-fits-all.
One subsect of people and
Exactly.
have it generalization.
That's such a profound statement that you're focused on surviving that you forget how to live.
Yes.
I
Yes.
never even thought about it like that.
Right. Oh, I became
Because
a
when
Food
do you
Locker
take
queen.
the time to like really
Yeah.
say, let me come up with even a 3-day plan or
Yeah.
1 week plan? You're literally going probably from day to day or even from like the first 6 hours, what my next 6 hours is going to look like when evening starts to come.
My day when a day for me sometimes would be, well, how many Food Lockers can I hit up in a day? Where can I go cook the food for me and my daughter? Because I would go get a motel room for a week or get a voucher, and then I would cook spaghetti or rice and then make it last based on what I got from the Food Lockers. So you don't really focus on, okay, today I got to write a resume. Today I got to look for a job. Today I hope I can get a place. I hope I can get that SHRA. I mean, I love that program, don't get me wrong, but some lists are 8 years long. I don't have 8 years to live in these streets to
Right.
find housing. I have to focus on today. So that's kind of where that comes in. So teaching the homeless and reaching out to them, you know, we still have a lot of people on these streets right now. Sometimes I'm just driving by and say, hey, do you need support? What can we do as a person? And this is nothing to do with the program, but as just humanity.
Humanity, yeah.
Yeah. You know, what can we do? So
You mentioned that your daughter came with you to the program. Now,
Yes.
after completing the program, being in a job for 8 years, successful one at that, well, how would you say your kids describe you now?
my daughter describes me as miraculous.
Aw,
She thinks it's a
that's
miracle.
beautiful, beautiful.
She thinks it's a miracle that we got what we went through because, like I said, she was in 6th grade. She didn't get to graduate the 6th grade. She was very sad. Through the program, she got to go to Kit Carson, and she graduated there. And that was her main enjoyment. My older two, I should say, didn't really understand. At that time, because of their age and the age that I went through, what I went through, they're kind of used to the old mom. They're expecting me to act in my old ways, including my oldest daughter. Right now, we're still
Even now?
coping. Even now, my oldest daughter, she doesn't understand my calmness, and she takes it as sarcasm. And it's not being sarcasm or catty. I'm trying to communicate with her without feeling anger or judgment and still trying to guide her. But she's a 34-year-old woman now, so there's some of her own creature of habitness that she has now. But
And
with
some unlearnings that she has to do.
Exactly. So she has to now find a way to help it. And she actually went to St. John's a year ago
Oh, wow.
and stayed in the respite for 2 weeks and was trying to orientation. But I think she got too stuck in her old ways that she went back to an unhealthy relationship.
And, you know, sometimes it's not the right time the first time around, maybe not even the second time. And maybe the third time is when it's the right time.
Right. But my youngest daughter, she thrived. She got family counseling. I needed her to have a voice. Being homeless, I became very smothering. and was afraid for her to do anything, let her alone to catch the bus by herself. But she got counseling. She got a job by the time she was 17. She graduated high school. She was at her job for 6 years. She was able to go to college and get her first car on herself. But I feel like the program helped her success too, because they were able to separate our programming, and she was able to focus on her. And I was
So she
able
could
to
become an
focus on-
individual and into
Exactly.
her own. But I would also say seeing you thrive probably helped with that as well. Because if you didn't
Exactly.
And
go
early
through those
intervention is key,
challenges.
right?
Right, very much.
Because your younger daughter was so young at the time, she was able to
she's still being molded and shaped.
course correct.
And not be afraid to ask for help, which I wish I could have give that to my older kids. I don't feel guilty about it, but I wish I could have found a St. John's way before at that
And
time
I was going
did.
to ask you is what do you wish you would have changed? But you just moments ago you said you don't feel guilty about the
Well, I've had to learn to not feel guilty about what kind of mothering I did before that.
and that's profound. So if you could expand on that, because most of the times we hold our parents so tightly responsible, and of course when we're young we don't have the foresight to see the decisions that they make, and when we get into by the time their age was, we can
Exactly.
understand them better. But there's also the guilt that parents carry as well. But you said, I let go of that guilt.
I did.
And
I
it
had to.
takes a strong woman and a strong person to do that. So if you could be so kind to share how you were able to come to that decision and then be comfortable in it, and when it arises back from your children, say, I hear you, but I'm no longer going back into that guilt mode.
I was internally allowing myself to be feeling guilty and all this other extra stuff for my children. I felt like, okay, why couldn't I questioned myself. Why couldn't I have done this sooner? I see my kids still looking for help, and I can't give them the kind of help they need because they're now grown adults. So it took a situation to where it affected my health. And in order for that unfortunate health situation, in 2019, I had heart failure. I had what they call the placebo, and that's broken heart syndrome is what they call it. And it was because of stress.
Wow.
And I was internally allowing that guilt and stress and the fact that I couldn't be there for my other children. I felt bad that my son couldn't live with me at the program. I was feeling bad. I was just...
Everybody else but you.
And then here I am working and I'm thriving and my youngest daughter's thriving. So there was that moment of just... I didn't even know that it was killing me.
It's literally the phrase, eating you alive.
Yeah.
The stress was eating you alive.
And it was. And it was. And I was so after coming out of the hospital and relearning it, I went through a lot of intensive classes through Kaiser to learn that. And through those classes is where I learned that I had to not allow myself to feel guilty for those past things. It is the past. I can only rebuild now and still motivate and share based on going forward for today.
And you're supposed to evolve. You're supposed to
Exactly,
change. You
exactly.
can't get
And you
stuck
just
in the
didn't
past.
have the tools then either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Very
had
important.
some of the tools. I wasn't using Mazol because I still have, when you have PTSD, the first 2 years of my job, I didn't unpack because I was afraid to go homeless again.
Yeah.
So you hold on to some of those past because of fear and phobias that you now created. So
And you can't utilize all the tools right away. It's
Right.
overwhelming.
it is. It is.
Now, Jennifer, on the other side, what would be your message to other women and just to the community at large?
Believe in yourself. Be your own best friend. Don't be afraid to get up in the mirror every day and place a sticker full of affirmations and tell yourself you are strong, you are courageous, and believe in yourself and push forward. You got to keep pushing yourself.
So, not listening to anyone else but your own voice is what I'm hearing you say.
Well, pretty much. Sometimes, because sometimes your voice can take you astray.
Yes.
But if you're in the right place and you can get your thoughts together, then yes, strength and courageous. But one word that I heard you guys say a lot, my 3 words for the day is grace, growth, grind. So
You said 3 words of the day. That means you...
I use them daily. Grace, growth, grind. I focus on every day being graceful. I'm always growing. I'm always willing to learn. And I just keep grinding. I don't want to be in a place where I have to, I mean, if it happens, it happens, but I don't want to be in a place like that no more.
What about the women's who, and not just women, anybody who is out on the street and they cannot find the motivation? And if by some miracle this message reaches their ear, what would you say to them so that they could find an iota? Because sometimes all you need is just a spark at the right moment to propel you to search for the answers, to search for the way out.
I don't know one word that would fit it all. But
Not one
just-
word, phrases, anything that comes to mind. Well, let me ask you this. What do you wish somebody had said to you?
To believe in yourself, basically.
But that's a
Just-
general statement. Sometimes when
Right.
you're out in the
You're right.
in the
you're right.
dumps,
That
you're like,
is-
somebody
that
says,
is-
believe in you, you're like, the hell are you talking about? I don't know what I'm going to eat.
Right.
Where am I going to
No,
sleep
you're
tonight?
right.
So I'm pushing you a little hard.
No, because I don't know exact phrase to say because there's so many good things to say.
From your
but
experience.
from my experience,
Yes.
would be just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to push yourself and challenge yourself a little more. And don't give up. Don't give up. Things will happen for you. Things can get better. This too shall pass.
You are such an important example when you said that, because when I was speaking to you and what you shared with us, you stepped into this program in your 40s. I'm in my 40s, and I told you when we were speaking privately, is whatever I'm going through in life, and I said something to the effect of, how dare I sit here and complain because I can still solve my problem. I'm not gripped with a lot of the other conditions of where I'm going to lay my head. So I know I can lay my head somewhere comfortably. That is one problem that is already solved. If I can rest properly, I can then have enough motivation to get up and go source the solution for myself. So you gave me so much inspiration that day and even today in hearing you speak, because again, how dare I complain about the minor infractions on my life when I look at you and look at your strength and see where you came from. And yes, you gave up a few times, but you always said, no, I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. And look at where you are today.
Well, when you're walking in the Spirit and walking in faith, you're bound to fall. But what God wants to see is you to get back up. You know, he understands that we're in the flesh, we're human, we're imperfect. We didn't get born into a perfect world. But so everything will always be trial and error. But the thing is just pick yourself back up and keep going. You know, don't allow this one moment define who you are for the rest of your life. Some of my residents, I have to remind them, hey, you might get to be 90 years old. Take care of your name, take care of your first impression, and focus on longevity. Because like what we were saying earlier, I was only focusing when you're homeless just day to day, let alone 3 days out. Now I'm thinking, okay, I've been here 8 years. Let me just make it to 65 so I can enjoy retirement. You know, but I'm grateful for that. But you always have people, even like now, my boss at my job is using the word Kaizen, which means new projects, new growth, learning new things. So he's always saying, this is a new Kaizen for us. Come on, let's go and keep pushing. So I take that home with me sometimes, and it's like, okay, how can I make a Kaizen part of my home? Or how can I make a Kaizen part of the program that I love to go back and help serve? So just telling the women, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And don't believe the stereotype of what homeless is. You are not this person. You know, you're better than that. And I think just being able to find your inner strength, because a lot of times people are strong. A lot of times people know it. They just need help from somebody like Miss Porcha or some of the case management that you have at St. John's to bring it out of you. You know, so because you become afraid to bring that out of you. You become conditioned in just being simple or being just enough.
Being hidden.
Yeah. Or being hidden. A lot of people are introverting. And the thing is, we need to communicate. We need to have others. We need to congregate. We have to have people. And if you don't have a great source of connection and a great foundation to build that on, then you kind of stay lost.
And I think that's why programs like St. John's are so instrumental. And we have, in speaking to one of the leaders at St. John's, I didn't realize that we have one of the biggest and the most nonprofits here in California, and primarily so within the Sacramento region, than the entire nation. We have so much help around us, guys. So if you see this podcast and you know people could use the help, there are so many programs out there. But also see the impact of the work that is being done and how the program has continued to grow. And now I have both of you to see as examples, and Jennifer, you, of how it just comes all around. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for St. John's Program for Real Change for being such a beacon of light for people who need you. So thank you once again. This is Between Us with Ashley and Chand. Till next time.